As always, thanks to all of you guys that took to Twitter, my Twitter handle at pfspot_Schlegel, and bothered submitting me sports and fantasy football related questions. And I got some good questions for both categories for Thursday. Remember the Sunday Q&A? That's pretty much just devoted strictly to fantasy football. The Tuesday and Thursday ones are split into two halves. The first part of the Q&A is sports questions, and the second half is fantasy football. So let's get started here. First question is, I am doofy. Is it Bill Belichick to blame for the Patriots' recent struggles? Yes. Yes, and I believe I'll be doing a video about this tomorrow as to why it is. Now, I'm not saying that he is the only person to blame, but he deserves a lion's share of it. And in a lot of ways, I think he's coasting off of previous reputation, and it's not the reality of the situation, both from a coaching standpoint, and I think even more importantly, from a kind of general manager standpoint. This is a guy that is the architect of the Patriots team that you see. So, yes, I think he deserves a lion's share of the blame for the Patriots' recent struggles. Absolutely. C-Staff 95. Which team do you think has the best backcourt in the NBA? Best backcourt in the NBA. I am not in NBA mode, so I am not thinking about the NBA. Uh, Maybe the Warriors? Maybe. That's perhaps the most entertaining backcourt for me to watch in the NBA. UF Gator Chomp 93. Is Matt Ryan somewhat underrated? It seems he never gets recognition for how good he is. I think he's a great QB. Matt Ryan is one of those guys that has elite talent. And I think at some point in time will be viewed as an elite quarterback in the National Football League. He's not there yet. He's a guy that plays incredibly well at home, and then when he goes on the road, it's kind of, what Matt Ryan really needs is like a decisive run in the playoffs, maybe getting his Falcons to the Super Bowl, perhaps even winning it. And I think that's what will put him into that elite stratosphere. I do think he's somewhat underrated, though. He's a really good quarterback. He's just not one of the elite ones at this point in time, even though, Dylan, that potential, that talent level is there. I am PT3. What do you think about quarterback Shane Carden from East Carolina? I see some Andy Dalton in his game. Uh, I'll be honest with you. It's one of those things that when I go and watch East Carolina film, I come away more impressed by the wide receiver Justin Hardy than I do Shane Carden. At this point in time, and I'll be honest, I haven't watched a ton of Shane Carden, a couple of games worth, and that's it. So based off of early thoughts, and throughout the next several months, you're going to get a lot more from me, including, I believe, later this week or this weekend, you'll get a 2015 NFL mock draft from me. I look at Shane Carden right now, and I see a mid-round prospect. At this point in time, I see a mid-round prospect. I think his delivery is kind of long. I don't think he has great arm strength. I love his field vision. I love his ability to go through his reads and his progressions. I think he's got solid athleticism, enough that you would want. I think he could potentially develop into an NFL starting quarterback, but I definitely don't think he's ready to right away. Omer H82, who should Oakland target as a new head coach, and how much control should they give him? Uh, until you figure out what you're going to do at general manager, the head coach really doesn't matter. Just telling you how it is. And if you're going to bring in John Gruden to be the head coach, you could sit there and have all these warm and fuzzy feelings about what he did during his time in Oakland and the fact that he got traded to Tampa and he won the Super Bowl. Towards the end of Gruden's reign, he was bad. And those Tampa teams got bad, and he had a lot of front office say-so. And he assembled some bad Buccaneers teams. So you might want to pump the brakes on that just a little bit. There's a lot of talk about them wanting a superstar coach, and I understand that, and that's probably what they're going to need. If he was a few years younger and they were going to fully give him control, I would say Bill Parcells would be the perfect guy, but he's too old. The game has passed him by. Another guy that would do wonders, I think, is Marty Schottenheimer, but again, too old. I think the game has kind of passed him by. They might need to go to the college ranks or Jim Harbaugh. They might need to go to the college ranks or Jim Harbaugh to find their star head coach. And how much control should they give him? Like I said, it depends on if they want to give him full control. I don't know if you should give him full control. Some control, yes, but I think they need to have a quality general manager that puts a quality scouting department and pro personnel department in place. Matt Meffay 2, when do you think Tom Brady should and will retire? Well, based off of what I see right now, he should retire at the end of the season. When will he retire? Probably in 2 to 3 years. Emblem T15, thoughts on how deep the Eagles can go into the postseason? I think they're a team that could make it perhaps as far as the NFC Championship game. I just don't see them as a Super Bowl contender yet. I just don't think they're balanced enough. I just don't think they have that it factor yet. They're a team that can make a little noise in the playoffs, but I don't think they can make boombox level noise in the playoffs. Alex Shirley 10, is the NFL more popular now than it was when you were growing up? I don't know, because the NFL has always been king during my life. So perhaps in part because the NBA is not as popular and Major League Baseball certainly isn't as popular. I guess you could make the argument that by default, people losing interest in those sports and maybe gravitating to the NFL more, that it would be more popular. I don't know how tangible that popularity is by comparison. I think it's relatively steady. Beam it to Cashman. Who will win the NFC North in your opinion? The way it looks at this moment, the Detroit Lions. My preseason pick was the Green Bay Packers, and I'll stand by that for the time being. They still have the best quarterback in the division, and that matters a lot. It won't be the Chicago Bears. That much I can pretty much promise you. Packer Boy 16. What are your thoughts on Jay Cutler's performance against the Packers this past Sunday? It just showed how stupid the organization is, frankly. They paid Jay Cutler Aaron Rodgers money to a guy who consistently can't play up to the level of and can't beat Aaron Rodgers. Now, you'll get dipshits in the comments like that ass 911 who will come around and talk about Cutler and his greatness when he puts up kind of a so-so performance, but when he puts up a shitty performance is nowhere to be found. Well, this was Cutler. And the team in the second half was a direct reflection of Cutler as the quarterback, as the supposed leader. He struggled. He didn't play well. He made a couple of bad decisions. And the team struggled mightily as a result. It's not all on Cutler. That defense is atrocious. Absolutely atrocious, as I predicted before the season. And the offense lacks depth also, as I alluded to and predicted before the season, that they were going to struggle. Marshall will get his, Jeffrey will get his, Bennett will get his, Forte will get his. But if you figure out how to stop one or two of those guys, kind of got it made. They have a limited amount of ways to really beat you. And the scary thing is that the Packers really didn't get much pass rush on Cutler. The Bears were able to run the ball really effectively with Forte, and yet the Bears only managed to score, 17 points? And all in the first half? To me, the worst play of the game for Cutler, other than the fact he had a couple of throws in the first half that could have been picked because of the windows that he threw them into but weren't, was that throw right before halftime where he throws it to Martellus Bennett short of the end zone. I don't care if he ran the route short of the end zone. You have to understand game situations better. While Cutler has statistically been better this year than he has been in previous seasons and appears to me to be a little more comfortable in his second year in Mark Trestman's offense, those are the type of decisions, those are the type of plays that really good quarterbacks can't and don't make. And that's why Jay Cutler makes them. All right. Edsel 4, why haven't the Pats tried to get an elite receiver after they let go of Randy Moss and let Wes Welker leave? I believe it's the arrogance of the system. It's the arrogance of Belichick to think that he doesn't need one. Clearly you do. It's a loss of priorities of understanding that Tom Brady is your franchise player. That's your path to potentially winning another championship. That's the guy that you have to help out first and foremost as your priority. Because all this effort and attention you focused on the defense in recent years, and your defense still stinks. Flat out. It still stinks. And now your offense has gotten progressively worse. It's ridiculous. Now we move on to the fantasy football questions. The Owens asks, should I drop Dwayne Bowe for Terrence Williams? As a general rule, I'm not a fan of dropping one team's number one wide receiver for another team's number two wide receiver. But what is Dwayne Bowe really going to do this year? You know, Terrence Williams is a touchdown-dependent number 2 wide receiver, in my opinion, but he could get more targets as the season goes along. So, yeah, I don't see why not. I mean, at worst, their point totals for the rest of the season will balance out, and if anything, Williams will get more touchdowns, so he'll give you more value. So, yeah, I think you're safe in doing that. Viking fan for life. Who should I start in flex this week? Cordero Patterson, Victor Cruz, Matt Asiata, or Michael Floyd? You probably got to go with Asiata at this point. As you saw what Fort Tate did against the Packers, and you would have to assume Asiata will get some goal line opportunities against the Packers. So, and since he's a running back who also catches the ball out of the backfield, he has multiple ways to potentially score. I think the safest one at this point is Asiata. One shot, you die 55. Should I consider picking up Andy Dalton over Matt Ryan? Nah, I don't see why you would. You know, Matt Ryan's producing more. So I don't see why you would want Andy Dalton. NJCT. Is it smart to keep Browns running back Terrence West, or should he be dropped? Depends on what other running backs you have, how many positions you have on your bench, what other, if any, weaknesses you have, what else is available on the waiver wire. Do I think at this point you should be dropping him? No. Do I think you should be holding him on your bench for the next couple of weeks, see what Ben Tate does, see how that backfield by committee works in Cleveland, and see if and when Tate gets injured again, if West is going to go back to being the starter? Yeah, I think you should wait. Just be patient. Sometimes patience pays off tremendously. Jose Yoga asks, Larry Donald, Julius Thomas, and Delaney Walker in a league with 2 flex spots. Which 2 should get the start this week? With Larry Donnell and his 3 touchdowns last week, you would assume he'd be in for a bit of a letdown, but he has a pretty good matchup this week, so I would say start him, and then obviously you got to start Julius Thomas. So, it really comes down to you're starting Julius Thomas, and then you got to choose between Donnell and Delaney Walker. At this point in time, I probably would go with Donnell. Are you a Turtle 44? Is it worth trading Jock Bell for Josh Gordon? Again, depends on how you're sitting at running back, how you're sitting at wide receiver, your position in the standings. Would I make the trade at this point in time if you're okay at running back? Yes, especially if you think you're going to make the playoffs. Absolutely, I would. Absolutely. Beam it to Cash, man. Should I drop the 49ers defense for Arizona's defense? Probably not. I don't see where you're going to get that much of a fantasy benefit from doing that. So it kind of seems like a lateral move. If it's a lateral move, then why do it? One benefit perhaps would be is that the Cardinals have already had their bye week, so you could pick them up and play them every single week the rest of the year, where you still have to worry about the 49ers bye. So if that's a huge concern for you, then yes. I'm just saying I don't know how much of a benefit you're going to get from that. And T-Bar 121 with the last question of the night. Best option for my flex this week: Alshon Jeffrey, Matt Asiata, Toby Gerhart, Brian Quick, or Delaney Walker? Again, maybe Asiata. Maybe Asiata. I don't think Gerhart is any option at all at this point. Quick, he could be an option going against Philadelphia secondary. Delaney Walker, maybe. I'd say you'd have to choose between, but you got Alshon Jeffrey going against Carolina, and they've gotten torched the past 2 weeks on defense. Maybe Alshon Jeffrey, because I'm not no. I don't know. You fucking pick. Anybody but Gerhart. Roll the dice. Thanks again to you guys that submitted your question for this Q&A. I'll be back Sunday for the Fantasy Football Soul Q&A. Just all fantasy football questions. See you later.